Good evening, friends. In the previous class, we started discussing about the qualitative uh, research tools. In that, we have discussed about observation as well as interview. Today, we'll be discussing about case study method. Case study is nothing but an in-depth study about an individual, group of people, an institution, a social phenomena, or anything, my dear friends. If you want to have an understanding, deep understanding into any phenomena, then we go for this case study. Case study research helps the researcher in the exploration and understanding of complex issues. It tries to study anything in depth and in a holistic way, my dear friends. The role of case study method in research becomes more prominent because it tries to study the issues regarding to education, sociology, community-based problems such as poverty, unemployment, drug addiction, and so on. Case study method helps the researcher to go beyond the quantitative statistical results because it tries to help us to understand the behavior conditions from the individual's perspective or from the respondent's perspective. We're not going to study from the researcher's perspective, but we are going to understand any behavior or any social phenomena from the actor's perspective or from the respondents or people's perspective. So this case study can be included both as a qualitative data as well as quantitative data. Case study helps uh, uh, it helps to explain both the process and outcome of a social phenomena. If there is any activity done, why it has happened, what are the causes of the for happening that, and what are the consequences. It can help in understanding both these aspects, my dear friends. Now let us discuss about the types of case studies. If the study aims to answer how it happened, why it happened, like if you're going to have questions like why, how, all these things, at that time we call it as explanatory case studies. um, then if you are going to analyze the sequence of interpersonal events after a certain amount of time has passed, at that time if you are going to analyze it, then we call it as descriptive case studies. Descriptive case studies. These case studies utilize one or two instances of an event to show what a situation is like. Then if you want to know what happened, who has done all these things, then we go for explorative case studies. Just like we have discussed the research designs like explanatory, descriptive, exploratory. The same way here, if you understand the designs, then you will be able to answer this also. Explanatory case studies to know why, how, and if you want to know about the sequence interpersonally events like, then descriptive. And if you want to get the answers for the questions like what, who, all these things, then we go for exploratory case studies. Then we also have cumulative case studies. These studies will try to aggregate information from several sites collected at different points of time. The main idea behind these studies is the collection of past studies for greater generalization without additional cost or time, my dear friends. That means taking the past history into account, we are trying to make generalizations because the already the case studies will be available or the information will be available. There is no need for us to spend time. There is no need for us to spend a lot of money in gathering the information, my dear friends. So based on this, we can also conduct repetitive studies, my dear friends. The next one is critical instance case studies. If we want to examine one or more sites for either the purpose of examining a situation of unique interest with little or no interest in generalizing ability, or to call into question or challenge a highly generalized or universal assertion. This method is useful for answering cause and effect questions like, if you want to know the cause and effect relations, then we go for critical instant case studies. So these are the five types of case studies. Then let us discuss about the strengths and limitations of case studies. Case study helps in data collection and analysis within the context of phenomena. Case study allows for both qualitative as well as quantitative analysis of the data. That is the strength of this case study. Some longitudinal studies of individual subjects can also help us in making generalizations, my dear friends. The qualitative accounts often produced in case studies not only help to explore or describe the data in the real life environment, but also help us to explain the complexities of real life situations, my dear friends, which may not be captured through experimental or survey research. Besides these advantages, my dear friends, it also has its own disadvantages. The first one is case studies are often accused of lack of rigor. Case studies provide very little basis for scientific generalization. And the third one is case studies are often labeled as being too long because it takes a lot of time to understand the people, first to convince them to have the approach to the people, then gathering the information and produce documenting it. It takes a lot of time, my dear friends. So these are the three limitations of this case study. Now let us go for ethnography. Ethnography is a qualitative research method which comes from the discipline of anthropology. Anthropology is a subject which try to study about the primitive people, my dear friends. Ethnography is the in-depth study of a culture or a facet of culture. Because of this, ethnographic researcher or researchers often look for very different be compared with the other research methods. Ethnography is the recording and analysis of a culture or society which is based on participant observation and resulting in written account of people, place, or institution. Ethnography is a methodology with more than hundreds of years of history. Actually, it arose in the Western world, especially to study the form of knowledge about distinct cultures, especially in the non-Western ones or non-Western cultures. Later on, when this discipline, anthropology, sociology, and psychology, gained its prominence, they also started using this ethnographic studies, ethnographic methodology in order to study about the culture, about the behavior, and so on, my dear friends. And it is also an important tool not only in sociology, psychology, anthropology, but is also being used as a tool in political science, my dear friends, named as political and anthropography. Sorry, uh, political ethnography. Ethnographers, as texts offer excellent insights into how social anthropologists undertake their fieldwork. They provide by providing specific in-depth case studies. They can serve as an excellent means for teaching about various issues. Ethnographies focus on a particular practice such as religious ceremony, cultural rituals, and the anthropologist will typically place the practice in its full context to give a holistic, rich, and multi-faceted account. We can also classify this ethnography into micro and macro ethnography. When we talk about macro ethnography, it defines cultural groupings such as the English or New Yorkers and so on. But when we go for micro ethnography, it is narrowly defined as cultural groupings such as local government, or members of Congress, members of so and so group, and so on, my dear friends. We also have emic perspective, which is the ethnographic research approach to the way the members of the given culture perceive their world. The emic perspective is usually the main focus of the ethnographers. So, how the people are going to see the culture from their perspective. But we also have ethic perspective. It is also an approach in the way of non-members. That means how the outsiders are going to interpret about the culture and so on, my dear friends. One is how people are going to look on their culture, how they are going to interpret. And when we talk about ethic perspective, it is nothing but the outsiders who are going to see the behavior. Okay, they are going to study about symbols, they are going to study about material active artifacts, culture, art, clothing, even technology, my dear friends. They are going to study about each and everything into in detail so that we can have a clear cut explanation. For example, think they want to study about the Egypt civilization. How come they have constructed the pyramids? Because in a desert area, it is not easy for them to bring the stones and pile them, arrange them in the form of pyramids, remember. Because each stone weighs around tons of kgs. At the time, there was no tractor, no cranes, nothing like no lorries. How come these people have brought? Because even using the animal power and dragging the stone of this size is not that easy. Remember that in a desert area. How come they have done? So the ethnographers and the researchers they came to know that these people have made artificial canals, channels, and they have filled that with the water. And then they have dragged the stones into the water after tying it to a rope, and they can easily drag it because if you put anything into the water, it becomes lighter, my dear friends. That way, they have dragged the stones from hundreds of kilometers to the site where they have constructed the pyramids. So they are going to study about technology, their ideas, their food patterns, their culture, whatnot, my dear friends. Um, so when we are going for ethnographic studies, what kind of skills are required? The first skill set is required is high degree of interpretative ability. So a researcher need to have high degree of interpretative ability, which is required to understand the wide range of issues and facts which are involved in the study. At the same time, the researcher also needs to be unbiased, because if a person is biased, my dear friends, we will not be able to get valid and reliable conclusions, my dear friends. The third one is the researcher needs to have good intellect as well as interpersonal skills, my dear friends. So these are the three skill sets which are required for the ethnographic studies, my dear friends. Now let us discuss about the strength and limitations of ethnography. Ethnography study and document the complexity of group behavior, reveal interpersonal relations from several dimensions of group interaction, and they also provide context for behaviors. In addition, they also reveal qualities of group experience in a way that other research methods may not be able to do the gather the information, my dear friends. It helps us to expand the range of knowledge and understanding of the world, but it also has its own limitations. It takes plenty of time because we have to stay with the people, we have to understand it, build a logical explanation, my dear friends. So it requires plenty of time. Also, we require a well trained researcher who has plenty of patience, my dear friends. Because once you go into the field, you will not get the information that easily. So the person must be trained, must have a lot of patience, my dear friends. It takes time to build trust with informants. So without trust, they will not provide the information, my dear friends. I'll give one example. In one of the African tribes, people put on their tattoos around their body. The more the tattoos, the more healthy and wealthy they are. So a person wants to know about the how people put on these tattoos. So he went to the tribal area and he said that I want to learn about this art form, everything. But the people said, sorry, it is only for our natives. We don't discuss about these tattoos with the outsiders. Then this person has said that, tell me, what should I do in order to? What should I do in order to prove that I am also a member of your tribal community? Then they said that we are going to put on three examinations, and if you are going to pass all these three examinations, then we will discuss about the tattoos, everything. The first thing that was the person has to go and kill a wild boar, wild pig. Second one is that they have to kill a big snake, almost as a big python. The third one is that he has to take a herd of cattle and move from one place to the other place in the jungle, because there will be plenty of wild animals and this may be prey. So his duty is to protect all the cattle and take care of them. And if he's successful in this, then the fourth one is that they bring the red ants from the forest and they weave that, keeping the head of the ant inside the basket, and they put that basket on the smoke so that all the ants get irritated. Then they apply the honey to the hand of this person and they ask him to keep the hand into the basket for at least 5 minutes. And if the person can bear the pain at the time, they treat that member as the member of the community, and then they share each and everything. So gaining the trust of the people is not that easy. Remember that it takes plenty of time also. And for short term studies, my dear friends, it is not possible because we will not be able to understand and interpret the data properly. So these are the limitations of this ethnography. So these are the four tools which we are going to study under qualitative research. Tools under qualitative research. Then we'll go for tools of quantitative data collection. Quantitative data collection. The first one is questionnaire method. In the questionnaire method, we are going to prepare the set of questions and we are going to give the question paper to the respondent. And the respondent is going to read the questions thoroughly. And based on his understanding, he is going to give the answers on his own. He is going to write the answers. Just like you are going to write your semester exams. The same way, we prepare the questions and we give it to the respondent. We call it as questionnaire method, my dear friends. In this, my dear friends, there are two types of there are two types of questions. Based on the types of questions, we can classify the questionnaire into two types. One is open-ended questionnaire and the other one is closed-ended questionnaire. In the open-ended questionnaire, we are going to give the questions and we are going to give the space to the person so that he can express his own ideas. We are not going to give any answers. We are going to simply give the questions and the respondent is going to share his ideas or views on that question. And when we talk about closed-ended questions, my dear friends, we are going to give the question and we are also going to give the answers beneath that. And the respondent has to select the close answer which is there beneath the question, my dear friends. So we call this as structured questionnaire. In the structured questionnaire, it is of two types. We have closed-ended questionnaire and we also have open-ended questionnaire, my dear friends. Sometimes we may use the mixture of both these, open-ended as well as closed-ended questionnaire. Then we also have unstructured questionnaire. Unstructured questionnaire refers to those set of questions which are not structured in advance and which may be adjusted according to the needs and the time of questioning, my dear friends. It gives sufficient freedom from a variety of responses and used mainly for purpose of interview. Its chief merit remains in its flexibility. It requires free response from the respondent. Okay, it requires, like, for example, I may ask, what is your opinion on Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Open University? Or what do you expect from Ambedkar Open University in terms of lectures? And so on, my dear friends. So in the unstructured, we are going to put on the questions as per the requirement. We have the flexibility, my dear friends. Now let us discuss about the advantages and disadvantages of closed-end questionnaire. Let us discuss the advantages. In the closed-ended questionnaire, my dear friends, the answers are standard because we have given the options and everyone has to give the answers only from the given options only. So the answers are standardized when compared from person to the other person. The answers are much easier to quote and analyze also. The third one is the respondent is often clear about the meaning of the question. So if he has clarity, then he can simply select the answers, my dear friends. The answers are relatively complete, and there is a minimum of irrelevant responses because we have to select it only from there. For example, when we talk about gender, we have only three options: male, female, and third gender. So obviously, if the person understands what is his sex or gender, then he can simply give the answers, my dear friends. Another advantage is that when we are going to deal with the variables which are sensitive, the answers to which there are simply numbers, such as what is your income, what is your age, what is your educational qualification, and so on. So sometimes this may be sensitive, so you're going to use numbers so that it can be easily gathered, remember. And the last one is it is often easier for the respondent to answer also. There is no need for them to think a lot because options are there. They have to simply understand it and select the right answer as per their opinion or as per their understanding. So these are the advantages of this closed-ended questionnaire. But it also has its own disadvantages, my dear friends. First one is it is very easy for a respondent who does not know the answers or does not have any opinion. So he can simply give any answer randomly without understanding. Akkad, bakkad, Bombay ball, wherever, whatever he wants without understanding, he can simply say A, B, or C, D, something like. That means we are not going to get the right answer. Second one is that the respondent may feel frustrated because of the appropriate category for his or her answers is not provided in the list. Sometimes what happens, based on the researcher's understanding, he may give only selected or may give only selected. For example, uh, what is your opinion on sociology subject, or what is your opinion on the sir who is teaching the lectures? If you see, there's plenty of papers, but they may not ask about the other subjects. They ask only a particular one with limited options. So at the time, the respondent may feel frustrated because appropriate category or answer is not included. The next one, there may be too many answer categories, and printing all these things will take plenty of time, and it will be too irritating for the respondent to study all the responses, my dear friends. For example, if I want to ask like what is your educational qualification, like I can put on like illiterate, can read and write, then first class, second class, third class, fourth class, fifth class, like 10 plus 1, 10 plus 2 degree, PG. Like if I'm going to put on, then obviously it comes to around 20 categories. Like, so reading all 20 options will also be a Herculean task. The person respondent may be irritated, and we cannot even print all the options there also, my dear friends. That is the third disadvantage. Sometimes there will be difference in interpretation. People may not be may not be able to understand the questions properly. The fifth one is that there is a variation in answers among different respondents, which may be eliminated artificially by forced choice responses. And the last one is there is more likelihood of a clerical error as the respondent may circle a 3 when he or she meant all the circles. For example, I may say, for example, so the main purpose of research is to add additional information, A, B, to study the existing theories, C, to verify the theories of facts, D, all of this. Sometimes some respondent may keep only yay. All three are right. Actually, all three are supposed to be the purpose of research, my dear friends. But sometimes the person may circle all the things thinking that all the answers are relevant. So at that time, it will be very, very difficult for the researcher to code it, my dear friends. So these are the 6 disadvantages of this closed-ended questionnaire. Now let us discuss about open-ended questionnaire advantages. It can be used when all the possible answers are not known. For a question, if you do not have all the answers, my dear friends, it is best or it is better that we give a open-ended question to the people and let the respondents give the answer for that. Second one is that we are going to give the respondent, um, we are going to allow the respondent to share his ideas or to clarify or to quantify the data, anything, my dear friends. It can be used when too many potential answer categories are to be listed in the questionnaire. It is also preferable for complex issues. And last one is it allows more opportunity for creativity or self-expression. So these are the five advantages of this open-ended questionnaire. And this open-ended questionnaire also has its own disadvantages. The first one is this may lead to collection of worthless and irrelevant information, because if a person has knowledge, he will give the right answer, or else sometimes some people may write something, that's it, that may not be the relevant information, or it may be worthless, my dear friends. Second one is data are often not standardized from person to the other person. So comparing and making a statistical analysis will not be that easy, my dear friends. So these are the two disadvantages of this open-ended questionnaire. Let us discuss about the advantages of questionnaire. The first one is that if you have a questionnaire method, that means you are going to gather the information from a large number of people scattered in larger geographical area. There, if you want to use interview schedule, remember that if you want to use interview schedule, you require a lot of time to move from one place to the other place, take their appointment, all these things. But if you have a questionnaire, you can simply type it on your letter and you can post the letter to the person with the written letter, or else you can simply email to the people and people can open the document and give the answers and they can send the mail back. So if you want to gather the information from a large chunk of people scattered in a larger geographical area, this is the best one, remember that. So there must be a question from your side, sir, do you think that whether the response rate will be higher if your response requires only 30 to 40%? If you have sent mail to 100 people, and if your study requires only 30 to 40% of the replies, then it's the best tool, remember that. It takes less time and it also requires less money to gather the information, my dear friends. But it also has its own disadvantages, remember that. Do you know what is the first one? Verifying the data, whether the person has properly read it, understood it, and gave the answers, or he simply gave the answers, we don't know that. Whether the respondent on his own has given the answers, or whether his subordinate staff has given the answers, we don't know that. Verifying the data will be a difficult task, first one. Second one, if the person has not understood the question, that means we are not going to get the right information. For example, in Telugu, if we say, what do you mean by chapu? Chapu means whether it's shoe, chapel, or whether it's to tell. If a person does not have that clarity, remember, he may not give the right answer. Remember, sometimes some words has ambiguous meaning, multiple meanings, and the person has to understand it. The second one is that you must know about the people where they are residing. You need to get the email IDs or the address so that you can email it to them or send the letter to them. But if you're not going to have the information about the people, then you will not be able to get the information properly. Okay. Second one is that certain questions may place emotional burden on the respondent. Third one is that it will be difficulty in obtaining representative data with the help of questionnaire. And last one is the questionnaire is normally not sent to a uniform group of persons. That means it may contain uniform questions but sent to a variety of persons with different social and cultural settings. That means when the questions are same to different people, you'll not get the relevant data, my dear friends. So these are the major limitations of this questionnaire method. Along with that, this questionnaire can be used only to the literates who can read and write, not to the people who are illiterate, my dear friends. So this is one of the limitations of this questionnaire method. Then we go for interview schedule. Already we have discussed this in the qualitative one. Already in the qualitative one, my dear friends. But when you're going to prepare the questions or the interview schedule, my dear friends, we are going to prepare the questions which are classified under three categories or three heads, my dear friends. First one is identification information. We are going to talk about gather the information about the name, about the family, about the gender, about the relations within the family members, their address, their telephone numbers, and so on. So by which we are going to identify the person. Second one is that we are going to ask the questions which are relevant with the social background and factual data, like what is the age of the head of the family, what are the marital status, education, religion, political preference, family size, occupation, and so on, including the family income, their socio-economical status, and so on. So, if you are going to ask any socio-economical related questions, that will come under second one. Third one is we are going to prepare the questions which are relevant with the subject matter of the study. Uh, for example, if I'm talking about poverty, then I will ask what is your uh, education, whether your education is linked with your employment, whether you possess the skills or not, whether the government is providing food on subsidized rate or not, whether you possess a Argyasri health card. All the questions which are directly linked with the topic, I will be asking about them. So there are three types of heads. One is identification. Second one is questions related with socio-economical background. Third one is subject related questions, my dear friends. And when you're going to design the questionnaire or interview schedule, my dear friends, you need to keep something in mind. The first one is the physical appearance of the interview or questionnaire schedule. If the questionnaire is too lengthy, remember that people get sick of your questionnaire or interview schedule and they simply keep it aside. They will not give the proper responses. Remember that. So your questionnaire must be, I will not say smaller one, but based on your study, you have to prepare it. Neither small, neither too big, my dear friends. It depends. So it must also be attractive, my dear friends. It must be simple. Nowadays, some people are going to print it with 10 font because they want to make it smaller. The questions are more in number, but in terms of printing, they want to make it smaller, my dear friends. So obviously, nowadays people are having eyesight issues and so on, my dear friends, because the size is not comfortable for them for reading. So at the time also, they simply throw it. So our duty is to make it look attractive. Remember that. Second one is the terminology which we are going to use. When I have completed my masters, at the time, my first job I was working. So a person has written ASAP, ASAP. Then one of my boss, he did not understand that what is that ASAP, and he asked me and said, "What is that ASAP?" And even I was unaware, even though I have done my masters way back, almost 2 decades, 2.5 decades back. I'm talking at the time. At the time, I don't know. So I said, sir, give me 1 minute time. And I went to the internet because the internet facility was there in the office. I asked, what is the full form of ASAP? Then it has given list of abbreviations, meaning of that. Then I understood, okay, because it's the office. Then he has asked me that as soon as possible, reply it. Sometimes when we are going to use terminology, some words or phrases, like people may not understand it properly, so we have to avoid using the abbreviations. We have to use simple words so that people can understand, even a layman can understand. For example, have you ever visited ophthalmologist? Most of the people do not know ophthalmologist, or they may not have the time to open the dictionary and see what is the meaning of ophthalmology or ophthalmologist. But if I'm going to say, have you ever visited eye doctor? Then it will be very easy for them. Then it will be very easy for them to understand that. So our duty is to avoid using abbreviations or using the words, terminology which cannot be understood by the people. The next one is when we are going to design the questionnaire, they are to be filled out by the people from different walks of life. So we have to see that even the highly educated or a person without basic schooling or elementary schooling can also understand that and can give the answers. So we must be very, very careful when designing the questionnaire or using the words. Then the words must be simple. Then next one is it inquires of certain aspects. It will be important for certain questions to follow certain others so that we get a proper set, so that people can understand the sequence and they can understand. So all the relevant questions should be kept at a side at one place. If you're talking about my marital conditions, everything, you place all the marital related issues at one place. If you're going to talk about my health issues, like, you have to put on all the health related questions at one place, my dear friend. So you're going to set the questions. Then the next one is the number of questions should be small, arranged properly. The purpose of questions is to ascertain the knowledge or the facts, to test the knowledge or to get the facts. And if the opinions are desired, for example, care must be exercised to see that all the questions just do not bring out only the point of fact. Remember that. Sometimes, in order to make the people comfortable, you also put on certain questions. Questions must be designed with possible difficulties of analysis well in view. So these are the advantages, or these are the things which we need to keep in mind when we are going to frame the questionnaire or interview schedule, my dear friends. Now let us discuss about the physical form of questionnaire or interview schedule. The first one is the size component. The size of the questionnaire or interview schedule depends on the scope of the survey, the number of items to be included. So it depends on the size. Size is both an advantage as well as it is also a disadvantage. If the size is huge, people, you have to convince the respondents so that they give the answers, because it requires plenty of time. When I've done my PhD, it has more than 400 questions. And asking a person 400 questions, it takes 3 or 4 hours of time. So a person used to be comfortable only for 15-20 minutes, and after that they used to be fed up. So I have divided my questionnaire into 5 components, like general information, then impact of economic reforms on health, on employment, on education, on agriculture sector, like, into 5 components. Whenever I used to meet that person, on one day I used to touch only one component. I used to complete that in half an hour and I used to leave. And again, I used to take their appointment and go for the second time, and I used to fill one component and come back. So in order to get the information, I used to meet a person 6 to 7 times to get the information. So I used to get vast information, but the disadvantage is that I have to convince the people, meet them, spend a lot of time, my dear friends. It has both the advantage as well as the disadvantage. The second one is that the quality and color of the paper. So if you are going to use a soothing color, a light color, it is preferable. Remember, white color and light color is preferable. And if you are going to use dark color, on that the print will not be clearly visible. So if it is not clearly visible, people may not work on it. Remember. Third one is arrangement of items. Questions which belong together should be arranged at one place. When the question is dependent upon the answers of the preceding one, it will be easy for the respondent to give the answers, my dear friends. So these are the things which we need to keep in mind, when we are going to arrange the questions. So physical form, it depends on size, quality of paper, and arrangement of questions. And when we talk about choice of questions, my dear friends, it must be directly related to the topic or problem to be evaluated. Questions whose answers can be secured more accurately, easily, and effectively from the source may be excluded. For example, when I go to a person, if I'm going to interview, there is no need for me to ask whether you're male, female, because looking at their appearance, I can simply tick male or female. That's it. If I'm doing a study in the rural area, I can simply put on rural area. There is no need for me to ask whether you belong to a rural or urban area where you are residing. Like, so the questions which can be easily identified are answered. There is no need for us to include there. You can simply put it on. The next one is selection of questions should be done with an eye on the subsequent tabulation plan. So how to make that table, how to make analysis, you need to keep in mind when you're going to prepare the questions, because sometimes you also give closed-ended questionnaire. Then when you're going to ask personal questions, um, lot of care should be taken because it may embrace the respondent. And if you ask the question and if the time if the respondent is not comfortable, remember that he or she may not give the answers, they may also create trouble for us, remember. And next one is we need to have meaningful debates or interaction with the people so that we can get accurate information. Okay, we get the rightful answers from the people. Okay, so these are the things which we need to keep in mind when we are going to frame the questions. This is about the techniques under quantitative research tools, my dear friends. Now let us go for data analysis and report writing. Whenever you are going to gather the information, whether it's for personal purpose, whether it's for academic purpose or professional lives, we have to collect the data, store the data in such a way that it will be useful for the others' research or we get some findings and so on, my dear friends. So once we get the data, my dear friends, our duty is to check whether all the answers are given by the respondent or not. If all the answers are not filled, my dear friends, it is our duty to go back, contact the person, and get the answers for that questions. Because sometimes without the answers for all the questions, we will not be able to make the analysis properly, my dear friends. So for that, we are going to classify the statistical data. It is nothing but cleaning the data or transforming the crude data or refined data or processing the data, my dear friends. Data cleaning includes multiple steps like ensuring completeness of data collected, no questions are left without answering, vague answers need to be cross checked, consistency in the numbers entered by the participants, and finally, giving proper code for those answers which are not preceded. All these are the steps which are included in data cleaning and preparing a meaningful combinations of data, my dear friends. Classification is the process of arranging the collected data into classes and into subclasses according to the common characteristics. We are going to group the data and we are going to classify the data. The data can be broadly classified into qualitative data as well as quantitative data, my dear friends. In the qualitative data, my dear friends, the data is classified on the basis of certain attributes like caste, gender, beauty, religion, and so on, my dear friends. Um, Whereas in the quantitative data, it refers to the classification of data on certain characteristics like age, height, weight, marks obtained or secured by the individual in the examination, income of the individual, monthly expenditure, then the distance traveled by the individual, and so on. So all these are the numbers which can be quantified, remember. So the quantitative data can be classified into three types. One is individual series, discrete series, as well as continuous or grouped series, my dear friends. In the individual series, we are going to have observations where we are going to have only one frequency at a time. In the individual series, my dear friends, the data, once it is there, it is arranged either in the ascending or descending order. For example, I want to measure the height. I want to measure the height of the student studying in fourth semester. So as per the number of the people, I'm going to take the number height of each people and I'm going to simply place it 34, 44, all these things like. And I'm going to arrange the number. I'm going to arrange the number in the either in the ascending or descending order. If you are going to do that, then we call it as individual series. Or else I'm going to ask about the students' marks secured in sociology in third semester. So I'm going to arrange the data. People are going to give the data, and I'm going to arrange the data in the ascending or descending order. We call it as individual series. If you go for discrete series, my dear friends, if you are having the book, you please check in page number 134. For example, I want to study about the students' marks in sociology. In the earlier one, I said one person say I got 10, other person said 12, other person said like this, vice versa. I'm going to arrange them. But I want to know how many people have secured these many marks. For example, how many secured more than 80? How many people have secured marks between 70 to 80 or 70, 60, 50 like? So in one column, I'm going to give the marks, and in the other column, the marks will be represented as X, and the number of students who secured that many marks will be put under frequency. F represents frequency, number of people or number of students. So, how many secured 0 marks? In your book, it is mentioned 15. And the number of students who secured 10 marks are 10 people. The same way, the number of students who have secured 100 marks, they are 35 people. So, we are going to arrange them either in the ascending or descending order. So, we have discrete series which has two columns. One is the frequency, and the other one is the variable, my dear friends. Then we have the continuous series. If you see in page number 135, here also again they have taken marks, but they did not say 5 marks, 10 marks, 30 marks. Like they have said the students have got the secured the marks from between the range 0 to 10. How many are there? 5. Students have secured marks from 11 to 20, 12, 21 to 30, 18, and so and so. If you are going to have an equal interval, and if you are going to measure how many people have secured the marks in between this series, then we call it as continuous series, my dear friends. So we are going to quantify the data in either individual series, discrete series, or else in continuous series, my dear friends. So whenever we are going to classify the data, my dear friends, we are going to follow certain rules. The first one is the classes should be rigid, unambiguous, and explicit. An unclear classification can have severe consequences. So it must be clear. Remember, whenever you're going to classify the data, it should not be it should not be ambiguous. Remember, it should not be rigid. Then we need to classify data. Um, they should belong to some of the other classes or categories. All the data which is there must be in some or the other. For example, when we talk about gender, either the person must be under male or female or else third gender. If you're not going to include in any of this category, then we cannot uh, classify the data properly. The third one is stability. In order to facilitate effective comparison of data, it is essential for us to classify the data which is stable. Remember that. Stable in the sense the same classification pattern should be adopted across the research process, my dear friends. For me, you cannot have one question, and for the other person, you cannot have the other classification. We need to have the same classification pattern for all the respondents across the study, my dear friends. Then, suitability for the purpose. It is crucial to remember the objective of the report, why we are going to make the analysis of this data. We need to avoid classifying the data in a manner that does not suit for the purpose of the study, my dear friends. And the last one is the classified data must allow future modifications. That means it must be flexible, because as per the changing conditions, we must also be able to change the statistical methods which helps us in data classification. So the data must be flexible. Then once the data is done, my dear friends, we are going to make tabulation, because tables help us to simplify the complex data. It helps us in making comparison of the data. When you're going to compare, because all the data is available in the table, you will be able to interpret easily, understand easily. So it is going to save our time, it is going to save our space also, my dear friends. And it is also going to help us in making the trends or the patterns for the data. For example, let us take the GDP of the nation for the past 3 decades. So we can simply put on a bar diagram, and we can see the graph like ups and downs, based on which we can see whether the GDP of the nation is going upward or downward, my dear friends. It can also help us in making the trends or the patterns. It also helps us to facilitate reference for in case of secondary data, my dear friends. And once you have the table, it helps us to compute various factors like we are going to use mean, median, standard deviation. We also try to find whether there is correlation between the variables or not. So this data is going to help us in also putting the data for interpretation of statistical experimentation, my dear friends. It also helps us in identifying the errors, my dear friends. We can easily identify the errors. This about classification of data. Then go for a diagrammatic representation of data in page number 145. Whatever the data is there, you can simply put that in the form of tables in order to make it attractive, in order to make all the people understand the trends, everything. We can also use graphs. So the first one is line graph. It is there in page number 145, my dear friends. The first one is line graph. It is a graph, it is a kind of graph which represents the data in a way that a series of points are to be connected by segments of straight line on straight line. For example, for example, on the x-axis, they have given the profits, and on the Y, they have given the year. In the year 2002, how much profits they have made. In the year 2003, how much profits they have made till 2008, how much profits they have made, and they have connected this, my dear friends, with the help of the line. So here it is going to help us to understand the profits which are generated by the people during a particular period of time. Second one is bar diagram. In the bar diagram, we are going to use rectangular boxes to represent the data, my dear friends, in the form of bars or in the form of rectangles. The rectangle boxes in the bar diagram is known as a bar, and each bar represents a value of a variable. These bars can be either vertical or else can be arranged in the horizontal way. The bars are equidistant from each other. Each bar originates from a common baseline or a common axis, my dear friends. Unless there are a specific order, the convention is that bars can be arranged in the ascending or else in the descending order. Bars can be classified into three categories, my dear friends. Simple bar diagram, multiple bar diagram, and the third one is stacked bar diagram. You can see the diagrams in the page number 146, my dear friends. You can simply use one variable at a time, or else you can take multiple variables at a time, or else you can also arrange them only on one bar about different features too. Then the third one is pie chart. All of us in our 10th class, we must have discussed about pie chart, my dear friends. We are going to show the frequencies of the variables in the form of a degree within a circle. This is only applicable to categories, categorical data, or attributes. A pie chart presents the category of data as parts of the circle is sliced as a pie. You can see that in the page number 147, my dear friends. So based on the percentage, you're going to simply slice the circle into different parts. Like, then the next one is histogram, a two-dimensional graph representation of a continuous frequency distribution is called as histogram, my dear friends. The bars are placed continuously side by side without no gap between the adjacent bars, my dear friends. Then we also have polygon, cumulative frequency polygon. In this, we are going to draw a diagram for a frequency distribution of a continuous variables in terms of cumulative frequencies, my dear friends, of both the types, more than or less than, my dear friends. It can be more or it can be less. Now let us discuss about the measures of central tendency. The first one is arithmetic mean, my dear friends. It is nothing but central it is referred as average, my dear friends. The arithmetic mean is most popular and widely used measurement, my dear friends. In the mean, my dear friends, the formula to calculate the mean is x bar is equal to x1 plus x2 plus x to the power of n by divided by n. The number of values, sorry, the sum of values by the number of values. That is the formula which is used to calculate the mean. So mean is very useful value in the data and is a good representative of the data. It can be used for individual or discrete or continuous series. It is good for ordinal as well as interval set of data, my dear friends. It is not affected by the sampling so that the results are reliable. So that the results are reliable. It is capable of further mathematical treatment. So in terms of median, my dear friends, the median is going to divide the series into two equal halves. For example, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we are going to simply, the formula which is used to do is median is equal to n plus 1 divided by 2. That means there are 5 digits, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 plus 1 by 2, 6 by 2 means 3. The third digit is going to divide the series into two equal halves, my dear friends. So for that, what we are supposed to do, whenever you are going to have any series, the first thing which you are supposed to do is that arrange them in either ascending or descending order. After arranging them in either ascending or descending order, my dear friends, ascending or descending orders, then use the formula n plus 1 divided by 2. Then you're going to get the median value. So median value is going to divide the series into two equal halves, remember that. Then mode. Whenever you want to study that where the values are more concentrated, at the time we go for the mode value. Mode is nothing but the more frequent data value. Mode is the value of the variable which is predominant in the given data series, my dear friends. So if there is any series like in page number 151, they are given a series, my dear friends. 5, 9, 12, 4, 14, 19, 16, 3, 2, 5, 7, 3, 7, 7 like. So in this, you need to study how many times 5 is repeated, how many times 9 is repeated, how many times 7 is repeated like that. Here, 14 is repeated for 4 times, my dear friends. Whereas 7 is repeated for 3 times. 20 is repeated only twice. Like, because 14 is being repeated for more times, 14 is going to be the modal value, my dear friends. This way, we are going to identify the modal value. Whichever is more repetitive, that becomes the modal value. Okay. Guys, if you have any doubts, you can ask me. Guys, if you have any problem, you can ask me if you have any doubts. Beta, it's already 9. If you have
Last unit, 15th unit, sir.
because they will end the meeting. If they are not